Hello, my friends. Welcome. I'm excited to have you today. I'm going to be going live with Ashe from Pura Apothecary. And here she is. Great. Hi. So happy that you're here. Welcome, everyone. All right, we're going to go live. So pop your questions into the chat for us and we'll try to get them all answered. All about spiritual. Hi.
Hey,
I'm so happy to be talking to you. Good morning and happy
happy Monday.
Well, it's so nice to see your face and to get to talk. I feel like I know you because I got to take a class from you, but you've only gotten to speak to me on the phone, so this is cool.
Yes, definitely. It's a pleasure. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm so excited for your class. It looks so amazing. And we got a bunch of questions about you and your own practice in terms of herbalism, but also spirituality. So I guess the best place for us to start is when did you first start getting into herbalism yourself?
Yeah, so I would say it was during my trying to conceive journey, which started about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I turned 26 and I was like, this is my year. My wife and I have been together since we were 17 and 18. We got married when I was 24. So 2 years into the marriage, we were just like, yes, let's expand our family.
Wow.
I had this naive approach that it was going to be easy because I'm young and I'm
Uh-huh.
fertile and like all these things. And it ended up being a real uphill battle for me, as well as just swimming upstream. And so I did a lot of different modalities to try to increase my fertility. And really, this was at a time that I wasn't trying to get to the root of the problem. I was just trying to treat the symptom, which was I
Hmm.
wasn't getting pregnant. And so I went traditional Chinese medicine, where I had to like boil this like these bunch of herbs for 5 hours and drink this black sludge every day, and that was interesting. And then I went Western, where I was taking like Clomid and forcing my body to over ovulate and like just really total masculine approach to
Yeah.
my body. My body really hated that. My hormones were crazy. I was a crazy bitch. It was like not good.
That
And
is
then,
that
right,
is not fun.
not fun. And then I decided to go just traditional herbalism and working with like red clover and red raspberry and things like that. And it still wasn't working for me because I wasn't getting to the root of the problem, just treating it. And then I decided to go to Costa Rica in order to just find myself in the jungle. I did a yoga teacher training in the beginning because yoga was always something that kept me grounded, but I definitely spiraled into a place that wasn't of my highest essence and decided that I needed to go away and really do that. So I spent 30 days in a wellness retreat that I thought was going to be with other people. And it was just me in this giant roundhouse alone inside of the jungle. And that was really
You're like,
terrifying.
did I just sign up for Vipassana in a foreign
Right?
country in the middle of the jungle?
Pretty much, yes. And the loudest thing, even though the jungle is very loud, the loudest thing were my thoughts. And I was like, wow, I have a lot of work to do. And
Yeah.
so there was also a healer there and a herbalist. Her name was Rachel, who owned the property, and she introduced me into plant spirit medicine. As far as just being able to go around the land and connect with different allies. And so her whole garden is full of different plants that grow natively to Costa Rica. And so it was really wonderful to have that connection. And then I brought of course, some of the medicinals home and started working there. And I just kept coming back to Costa Rica until finally Spirit was like, Ash, this is great, but you got to learn what's growing around you, because as I know now, the best medicine grows around us, and we're just kind of oblivious to the plants and the spirits that want to work with us. They're constantly like, hey, girl, what's up? Good morning. And you're like, what? Yeah, so here we are. That's how I
Wow,
got started.
that's amazing. I feel like fertility for so many female identifying people or people with uteruses, I guess, like it is this like stressful place of push and pull where we try to avoid pregnancy for the beginning of our lives, right? We'll do anything to avoid pregnancy. Then when it finally comes, it's like we just decide and we want to get pregnant immediately, and it's like it's so discordant to I don't know, just like the cycles of life. So that's something that I have total anxiety about personally. I'm worried that I'm going to get pregnant, but I'm also worried that I'm not going to be able to get pregnant. So I relate to your story so much, and I know infertility is it seems to only be rising.
Yeah. And I think that's just a major, fact that we are very disconnected from our bodies, and we are told to shut down our body, shut down our fertility, that fertility is bad. And I've really just learned to reclaim that word, that fertility is anything that you're wishing to birth in the world. So I definitely know that my babies are my businesses, my babies are my plants. My baby is also the baby that I didn't birth. My wife birthed our child, who's now 2.5. But I'm still a very fertile woman, even though I wasn't able to fully conceive a human in this life. But I really want to reclaim that word, because people are so fearful of it. And it's like, no, fertility is creativity. Our earth is so fertile. She creates all these beautiful things, and we don't ever, we try to shut her down with like Roundup and all of these weed killers, but nevertheless, she persists, so will we. So
Yeah, that's so true. And fertility isn't necessarily a gender thing, right? It's we and it doesn't have to be a human baby that we give birth to. And so often when we stop focusing on like what the outcome is that we want, the expectation of like what fertility looks like, it blossoms in a completely beautiful, different, wild way. Like your business, and you run Pura Apothecary in Santa Barbara, right?
yes.
Amazing. And how long have you been running that?
So we my wife and I were both pregnant at the same time. So she was pregnant with our daughter
Wow.
Quest. I was pregnant with Pura Luna. And so Quest was born October 14th, and then Pura Luna was born November 4th. I'm messing this up. November 17th, both in 2017. So they're both two and some change.
So
Yeah,
you have a Libra and a Scorpio.
exactly.
Wow, that's so cool. And it must be amazing to see them evolve together.
Absolutely. It definitely keeps things in perspective for me. I wouldn't expect my daughter to run as a newborn. So same thing with success, it's like it's an ongoing
Wow.
process. And so now seeing her at a place where now she's swimming, she's running, she's, learning to talk. And then the business is also growing and swimming and thriving through adversity and all of these different things. So it's a really big blessing to have these two as mirrors of each other, because that's definitely what they are.
Yeah, that is so wise. Like, yeah, we don't expect an infant to just immediately start voicing their needs and like telling us their opinions on politics, right? Like, we're like, let's just take care of you and like make you cozy and feed you and,
Yeah.
support you. Same thing with the business. So many of us assume that like once we've got the idea and we've sent off the LLC, it should be a thriving business making tons of money and supporting us in every possible way. When really, like, yeah, you're mothering it,
Yeah.
or you're caretaking it. Um,
Absolutely.
and I feel like, with children, we just, they're not ours. Like
Right.
we get to be the vessels maybe, or like the caretaker for a while, but it's
Yes.
really our job to let them flourish and grow and go beyond us. And I think the same thing with our businesses a lot of the time, to be honest. Like,
Yep.
holisticism is not mine, and at some point I imagine it will outgrow me and I will need to hand it off to the people who can take care of it better than I can. So,
Absolutely.
and that's kind of scary to think about, but it definitely puts you in your place.
Absolutely.
Um, Gosh, I love your how you mentioned that the best plants, or maybe the ones we need the most, are the ones that are growing outside of our door.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I feel like so often we look outside of ourselves and beyond where we live for medicine or herbs or even like practices, like wellness practices. So how did you come across that yourself?
Well, it just became really clear. So once you have a really strong connection with the plant world and you really are able to listen, that's when I did hear the call, like, Ash, stop going to Costa Rica. We're right here. What you need is right here. And I'm like, who are you? I don't know you. That's weird. I don't know you. Okay. I get to know you. I would say that, what we need is always in abundance around us. And I think you're in California as well.
Yeah.
California is so abundant with native plants, especially plants that were utilized by, native tribes. Where I live in Santa Barbara, the Chumash are our native tribe here, our native family here. And so it's been really eye-opening and really interesting to find out more about how they use what you walk by when you're hiking. And that's something that we can definitely bring into our lives and incorporate. But it's interesting because a lot of us are dealing with anxiety and things like that. And dandelion is growing, and dandelion definitely helps with the gut mind. We don't really
Mhm.
talk about how the mind and the gut are very connected. And if you're
Yeah.
having all of these issues with, digestion and gas and bloating or whatever it is, it could be a sign that you need some support there. And the thing about plants is that they have like their doctrine of signatures, but they also have their colors correlate with different chakras, which I found really fascinating for me personally, because when it comes to healing yourself, there's always this daunting task of like, where do I begin?
Right.
There's so many layers to this. It's like,
Right.
and what do I do? Always start at the root, always. And so if we just stick to the plant dandelion, dandelion root is an incredible, digestive tonic, but it also is a root. So when you ingest root medicine, you are taking on that rooted perspective. And when we heal the root, so the root chakra is definitely a place of like having our needs met, having a roof over our head, nourishment, all of these things. This plant in itself is so full of vitamins and minerals and so nourishing that you get to repair your roots by working with its roots. And then as we work up the plant, then we have the green dandelion leaves. Well, green speaks to the heart chakra. Anything that's bitter. I don't know if anybody has tried dandelion greens, but they're extremely bitter.
They're very bitter.
Extremely bitter. Bitter also is really great for digestion, but it's tonifying. So it's tonifying to the heart, to the lungs, to the esophagus, like everything. So helping to really like tighten up that area and feel strong in your heart space. And then as the dandelion grows, it's yellow. So yellow is the sign of the solar plexus. Again, digestion, but solar plexus is the seat of who you are. Feeling, forthright in this is me and I'm proud of who I am. And this is what I have to say. And like all of these things and shining your light and being that lighthouse in the world. A lot of us have issues with that. So just working with the entire plant of dandelion, you're getting more than three chakras, but you're getting so much healing and so many medicinal benefits, which are also getting the spiritual aspects of it too. And that's what I love about the type of herbalism I practice is I don't just look at these plants as, plants with this medicinal effect. If anything, I know more about their spiritual side than I know about their medicinal side, because I
That's
can
cool.
deeply relate to them on a spiritual level. And then the medicinal side is like textbook, and that's not really my jam.
Right.
So,
You Google that, right? Like,
yeah. Right. Yes.
Wow, I love that. We grow calendula in our backyard and rosemary and rue. I'm Italian, so I'm really into like the traditional Italian herbs and plants that my ancestors used.
Yeah.
And I'm always like I'm always learning from the garden, like the roots like beets and onions that take so long to grow are also the ones that last the longest once they're out of the ground. The sort of like things that grow super quickly um, aren't that hardy after you take them out and they have to be used really quickly. Calendula is something that like keeps growing no matter what. Like it just proliferates and it's really hardy. And yeah, it's just I learned so much just from being back there. I don't really know that much, but I feel like it keeps teaching me and it's so cool to just, to your point, you don't need to Google it. You can just go and be with them and you learn something, feel something from it.
Feel something. Yes. Watch how they grow. Watch, the direction they are in the sun. Watch how they interact with other plants. Like everything is trying to tell you a message. It's just up to us to like really listen and to be in the present moment. And that's one of the challenges I think that we face, especially in this generation, is there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of noise. And there's a lot of things that even when we have put our phone down, we're circulating and swirling whatever it is we just saw. So it's like really dropping our nervous systems. And, I just recently came out as a Black queer femme witch. And that was like a really big deal for me. That was bigger for me than coming out as queer. It was coming out as a witch. And for me, being a witch is just really utilizing nature as one of your power sources to create what you want in this life. And I like to look at myself as a powerful manifestor, manifested a lot of really beautiful things in my life.
Yeah.
And because I have such a strong connection with nature and with spirit and the elements and all the things. And I incorporate rituals in my life that really make it easy to match my nature with nature. And so the ability to be a witch is to be able to drop your nervous system on that frequency. And do you know how challenging and what a practice that is? It's such a practice. That I still do daily. So, and that I have to continue to incorporate because it's easy to become so disconnected with that. So,
100%.
Yes.
I have I have a great book that I was reading about witchcraft, and I studied Italian witchcraft, so stregoria, and that word also, just saying that word, it's really scary when you first start. We've got this tradition of women being burned at the stake for coming out and owning that. So I think that's why it causes so much like anxiety in us. Yeah. But one of my favorite lines is, you can't multitask and do magic. Like it's impossible. You can't
Yeah.
be like listening to a podcast while you're mixing something up. Like that's not how it
Well,
works.
you're just messing with the message. Now that podcast is in your medicine.
Right. And if you're listening to a true crime podcast, it's really gonna fuck up your spell. Trust me.
Man. Yes. Agreed.
So how when you're like running your store and when you're I imagine people come in, how do you explain to them like quickly about the spirits of plants? Like do they kind of give you the side eye or do you mostly attract people who are like on the same wavelength as you?
I mostly attract people that are on the same wavelength. And if they're not, they're so curious and they're so desperate to know a different way of living and
Yeah.
loving and being. And for me, how I introduce it is just about mindfulness. So when we really get into how plants sacrifice their lives for thousands of years for the benefits of humans to evolve to where we are now and how we've taken for granted that, they get it. They're like, wow, I never really paid reverence to the fact that, the thing that's really supporting me in my hormones or in my nourishment really is sacrificing its life for my benefit. So when you start to really put that in perspective, you start to have a little bit more respect and reverence for that.
Yeah.
And so when people come and buy herbs and they're like, well, how do I do this? I'm like, well, the first thing you need to do is set an intention. What's your intention of working with these allies? Because these plants maybe have all these like descriptions under the sun on what they do, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the medicine that you're going to receive because everybody's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is your intention with this plant? And once we set an intention, the spirit world takes it and is like, okay, that's what you want. And you have to be careful with what your intention, right? Like
You better be clear.
you better be clear, but also really what you asked me for, I did this manifestation group and like, of course you set an intention, for 4 months we met under the new moon to talk about our intentions.
Cool.
One of the women in the class was like, I asked for clarity and so many things came to light that she was not ready for.
Ooh.
Totally turned her whole life upside down. And at the time she was so in it that she couldn't see that these were the blessings and this is what you asked for. So just like really think about what
Yeah. Are you sure you want that thing?
Right. And so yes, first setting an intention, and then before you're working with the herbs, just taking a moment to just say a little prayer, a little like, like right now I'm drinking oat straw. So oat straw for me is one of the first medicines that I learned to work with. I worked with it for 30 days when I first started herbalism school, just to see what it would do in my body and how it would shift me. And one thing that I did notice that it helped me to respond instead of react. I could be very reactionary. I have a lot of fire in me. So I just remember one time I was like drinking oat straw and I was on the phone and this woman on the other end was being totally not cool. And I was like, ooh, but I felt oat straw being like, it's okay, Ashe. Just play with it. You don't know, have compassion, you know what's going on the other end. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Thank you. And I wasn't reactionary. And that for me was really a beautiful thing. And I also started to have more of a childlike wonder with my lifestyle, meaning like I took the time to watch flowers and look at bees and like all of these things, which is things that children do that we don't do anymore. And oat straw really speaks to that, So back to, programming it is just like oat straw, this is a really heightened time. And I know you're a nervine. I would love some grounding. I would love my nerves to be at ease. I would love for me to feel like I can reach for the sun and still stay grounded at the same time. And then I drink, and then, you pour your hot water. And then, my wife and I are all about programming our water. If you've ever looked up the Japanese scientist, I always like on his name.
That study is crazy. It's when he says positive words to one and then negative to the other, and then he freezes it. And it looks like it's crazy. You can see the difference between the two sets of water.
Yeah.
Y'all do a Google.
Absolutely. Google search. Yes, the crystal formations totally change. So what are you programming that hot water that you're using or that cold water that you're using? And then envision that, that when after your infusion is infused, which is after 4 hours, I do mine overnight. So that way I wake up to this like powerful cup of sunshine or whatever it is. You're ingesting all of these benefits and you're setting yourself off proper for the day ahead. So that's how I connect my customers back to their own spirituality, is just being mindful and just really, how do you want to feel? What do you want, and then really making that like your cup of like love that you need right now.
I love that. And I think herbalism, you just said, how do you want to feel? Like, what do you want? Choosing how you want and having personal sovereignty in that. And I think herbalism is one of those, when it comes to well-being and wellness, it's one of the most equitable ways to do that and inclusive ways to do that,
Mhm.
because you can create your own relationship to plants. You don't necessarily need to go to school in order to work with plant medicine and to work with plants. And it asks you to check in and be your own healer, right? And be like, what do I actually need right now? Do I need a nervine, or do I actually maybe need something that's going to like get me more like awake and on it? Maybe I need to be a little bit more reactionary today, because that's what my day will require of me, is to
Right.
be strong and to be on fire. And like actually checking in with yourself and being like, what do I need? As opposed to a prescriptive sort of wellness lifestyle. Like everyone's taking tons of CBD all the time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like, is there a way that we can have more choice around how we're treating ourselves and our well-being?
Absolutely. And also more intention around using cannabis.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Right? This plant has been so abused and manipulated and picked apart and talked bad about and praised, and like it's like so wild. And so really just like reclaiming what cannabis means for you and in your life. And if you haven't taken a moment to connect with that plant, is it really your ally? I definitely did that over my birthday. I was like, you know, it just started to change on me, because cannabis was definitely one of what I thought was an ally for years of mine, but it never really was. It was just one of those things that like, okay, I'm really paranoid and I'm really overthinking everything, but that's okay. That's just what it's supposed to do, right? And then I stopped smoking it for a while, and I was just like, I just need some clarity. I just need some groundedness. And then I was like, you know what? Before I turn 36, are you an ally of mine? So I was like, okay, it's cannabis. I'm calling you in, set an intention of like creativity and like all these really beautiful things. And it started off well, and then she like totally like jokestered, like flipped on me, and all of a sudden I was like rethinking everything I've ever talked about in my life. And I'm just like, where is this coming from? Why are you questioning me right now? This is not what I wanted. So it's just like really taking a moment to like connect with these plants and being like, okay, you're a bit of a trickster plant for me, and I recognize that. I still respect your medicine and think that it's very vital, but I'll probably only be utilizing you when I need you, not for recreation or for fun, where it's not that fun to hang out with you anymore. Yeah.
I get that. I think that I have a similar relationship to cannabis, and my partner, that like it makes him crazy, fun and awesome, and I am like a shell of myself. It's not
Right.
that it's
Yeah.
um but that's so interesting. And do you find that your relationship to the spirit of the plant does change over time? Sounds like cannabis wasn't really for you, period, but like, is it like any relationship where it grows and evolves?
Absolutely. You can definitely get to a place where something is no longer serving you. Like,
Mm.
let's say, somebody said, you should really work with this ally, this plant. And at first it's really great. And then you're like, when I drink it, I just feel something in my body that makes me feel really fluttery or flighty.
Mm-hmm.
Then your body has acclimated to a point where it's no longer really providing you with what you need, and it's time to shift. I always like to kind of rotate what herbs I work with, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I always encourage all my customers to be like, it's time for you to have a home apothecary. Don't just trust my judgment. Like, I want for you to walk into your pantry or into your cabinet and be like, who's my ally today? And you will be surprised where it's just like, oh, Shassandra, I haven't worked with you in so long. Like,
Yes, we
you
love
know,
her. We love
yes,
her.
right. But for every day, she might not be the jam
No,
sauce,
definitely not every day,
right?
but like sometimes I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Right, absolutely. So definitely trusting your intuition on what you need is so beneficial, and especially how we've like really let Western medicine control and dictate our lives and where we place our power. Our power lies within. It's not at what the doctor is going to tell you. Like, utilize Western medicine for its genius in giving you the test that you need in order to really understand what's going on in your body, where your hormones are at, how your uterus is looking, like all of these different things. But then take that as power and not as like a downfall, that like, okay, well, now that there's an issue, what do I do? I'm freaking out. And then all they have is like surgery or a pill.
Right.
There are definitely many more options than that, and it's up to us to really be our own advocate in that way. And so definitely like utilizing Western medicine for what it is, but then really taking that as a powerful tool to really take that as a way of working with plants, working with different modalities. It's like, and that's one thing that I had to like really work on with myself, is bridging the two. It's like, Just because I'm an herbalist doesn't mean that Western medicine doesn't play a huge role in my life. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
had cancer when I was 4 years old. So
Okay.
Western medicine saved my life. No herb could have cured my cancer at 4 years old. I needed
Right.
that
Right.
surgery. I got that one kidney now. It's doing good. Now I'm, flushing it with all these really beautiful things, trying to keep it healthy, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, can we, and there is no bridging right now, but can we as a society learn to bridge these two things to support and nourish each other? And even if you are taking chemotherapy for your cancer, can you drink nettles to really build up your vitamins and your minerals while it depletes you? Like,
Mm.
like while this other chemical is depleting you, like there definitely can be a both and situation. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Totally. We live in such a binary structure.
Right.
So that's capitalism, right? Is asking us to be on binaries and creating binaries of have and have not, accumulation or like, giving away. Even like we know that the gender binary isn't a binary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for us to move out of like either being in triage mode, which is sort of like Western medicine, right? If my arm falls off, I definitely want to go to the ER.
Yes.
Like that, well, that's the right move. But
Yeah.
like for my day to day, do I necessarily want to take a ton of pharmaceuticals to help balance me? Maybe not. And maybe what I need to upkeep myself isn't Western medicine. Maybe it's something else that isn't necessarily a quick fix. That's more foundational in my practice and in my life. And not vilifying either. Just
No.
knowing when you need them. Just like it sounds like you teach your students and your clients like know your herbs so you know what to use when you need it. You don't need all of them every single day.
No. Yes. And looking at all of these modalities as just self-care tools. They're all self-care tools,
Mm-hmm.
and, self-care is such a buzzword, but it's real. Like but self-care is so many things. It's also going and getting that doctor's appointment that's been long overdue, y'all. It's okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And even though
for
they're going
real.
to hunger you and make you feel scared, you need to come in with your power. You need to have your little like herbal army, like, okay, I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
go in and not be reactionary to your, to how you're going to treat me right now, like whatever it is, and just support yourself as you learn about yourself, and then take that as power and then utilize it in the best way possible to take better care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's empowering. It's
Yes.
not, what's not empowering is like vilifying anything and being rigid. What's empowering is like being able to tap into ourselves and be like, what do I need right now? And I feel confident about any choice that I make because I know it's what I need, regardless of what the choice is.
Yes.
Whew. I could talk about this forever, but
Right.
I know that we have to go. So your class is at the very end of July. It's up on the website. I'm so excited about it. We've already got a ton of signups.
Right.
On a sliding scale for everyone who's watching this now and in the future. Hello, future. So you can join us at any rate that any tier that feels good to you. It's self-selecting, so you go and check it out and feel into it. And no one will be turned away for lack of funds. Shoot us a DM or an email, and we'll get you taken care of. But Ash, maybe do you know like what you're most excited about to teach in class?